Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth episode of A Talk with Tabrez. I'm super excited to introduce my today's guest, who is one of the national head of the global mass media company Condé Nast, a person who is curious about history, about sports, about life in general. Let's meet Ronak Raje.
Thank you so much, Tabriz. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you for agreeing to this conversation. Let's get started. Since you work in a sales profile currently, can you share the most important learning you had in sales?
Tabriz, it's very interesting. A lot of people ask me about sales specifically because sales like something that everyone goes through, right? Like, you get up in the morning, you go to a milkman or you go to your shop, you buy stuff, that's sales. So, and from there on, your day starts until the day you closes. I'm sure that, there are, it's essentially sales in a way, either you're selling or you're buying off a seller, right? So essentially, you're engaging in this sales throughout the day. Now, what I do essentially is not too different from the fundamental principle of selling, right? Because while I'm, as you rightly said, I'm a part of a global publisher like a Condé Nast and sell a lot of nuanced solutions to the luxury segment. One key thing that as a salesperson, that I've learned a lot through my many years as a salesman are two things. One is patience, and I think as a kid while growing up, I was pretty impetuous, like, wanted things quickly, wanted results quickly. I think in sales, you don't get that. You have to be at it for a very long time before you finally close something or you finally make something. So that's number one. And number two, there is no one fits for all sort of an approach, right? Essentially, when you're selling, you need to add value to your customer because unless and until you're truly solving a problem or not adding a value to the person that you're selling, there's no use doing this. So I think these two are my main mantras or other learnings, in my journey as a salesman.
Is there anything unique you do to
Yeah,
attract?
so actually, one thing that it's not unique per se, but what I really do is that when I'm in a meeting with any of my clients, I try to ensure that I speak the less and I let the person speak the more, right? Someone who I'm sitting across the table with. The simple reason is again going back to what I just said. If I need to add value to someone, like because I'm not selling commodity. If I'm selling commodity, it is more of like it is what it is. But when you're selling customized solution, my main thing when I go out is I try to listen a lot. I 70 to 80% of my meeting is actually letting my customer talk, understand that, imbibe it, and then add value and then sell it further. So that's something that I try to do differently from a lot of my peers, like who go out in the market.
Is there an instance you can share when you listen to the client a lot and he was very impressed?
For my one of my recent projects that I did. So it was a global company, and this Formula Electric, which is Formula E, very similar to like Formula One that happened. So last year they came to India for the first time, and they were doing like a race in Hyderabad. So it was a E-Prix that was supposed to happen in Hyderabad. And we had never attended an E-Prix, right? I mean, none of us have actually seen a Formula One race. Of course, I follow it on television and on, I do follow it, but Formula E was a different beast altogether. So I think that's a place wherein we really brought the partnership to life on GQ, which is one of my platform, wherein I when the clients came to us and when they had a lot to say, they were initially there was an objective which was very different, but when we heard them out, when they actually told, Gen Z audience, this is the way they want to target, this is the kind of solution. And of course, we built out a complete plan and it was a massive success. In fact, if you have seen Netflix Dare to Survive, which happened, which is a very popular show, we created our own series by the racetracks, by the pit lanes for 7 days for Formula E. I think that the whole idea was it germinated from that one meeting that happened wherein we actually heard what they had to say. and we created what, it's a philosophy of letting someone talk a little more to give their problems before you come back with a solution. So that's pretty much what it is.
Let's open it up. Was there an instance when, due to a silly reason, a deal got cancelled at the last minute?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's my life. Because there's so many times. So it's like a funnel, right? Like you approach so many people, so many get interested, then you are very close to closing something, and then finally closing a deal, and then executing it. In fact, there are so many times that there is an agreement in place, everything is there, but because of some macro level issues, the deal can get cancelled. So I remember I used to work very closely with crypto exchanges earlier, right? WazirX, and the like. They were massive spenders with us when I was in a different company earlier. Suddenly there was this huge ban on crypto, and there were regulation issues, taxation problems, and there was a massive deal in place which went kaput because of macro issues, and nothing any of us could have done about it. There's so many times wherein I handle alcohol as a category, which is very huge. And there are a lot of government regulations that come in. So sometimes you close a deal with a certain objective, and then there is a regulation that is passed, and you can't do anything about it. So, I mean, that's part and parcel of life. You just have to deal with whatever cards you are dealt with.
Is there any other silly reason apart from the government regulations?
So there is this one thing, and it is more like a people problem sometimes. You have these people who are champions for a particular brand in a company. So let's say the marketing head is loves our platform and he reads a lot, and then he decides to go forward and advertise and spend substantial amount, invest, and then suddenly one fine day that person gets fired for whatever reasons. And then lo and behold, one day you realize that the person who's coming in doesn't believe in the same philosophy, and you're out of the plan. So that is something again that is on the other end of spectrum, which is more people centric. Like you can't really do much about it in that case. So yeah, I mean these are a few problems. Sometimes you they find you a more expensive than what they thought. The budget falls. There's so many other things that happen. But this people thing is very interesting because it's something that again none of us can do about it. You have tried building a relationship with one person and that person leaves, right? Then what do you do with this anyway?
It happens to most of the people who are trying to sell something, because
Right.
it's so volatile. Nothing is in our control until it is completely to the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, since you are very good public speaker, how much does it help in all walks of life, at your job, in your personal life, or talking to a stranger?
I've been a Toastmaster for the last 12 years now, and while I've been a confident speaker right from my childhood, because I used to host a lot of my school functions, college functions, used to anchor them. So, per se, I didn't have much of a stage fright, but yet I think these last 12 years, it has changed my personality a lot. Being a good public speaker, or, having when you're out, when you're talking to more people, when you're presenting something, I think if you are a good speaker, you can command a better, a better share of voice, share of attention when you're speaking. Because at the end of the day, I speak to a lot of my mentees in Toastmasters and a lot of juniors, right? So what they keep telling me कि sir हमारे पास idea है लेकिन वो जा नहीं रहा है. It's not being communicated. As a speaker, it allows you to put a good vehicle together, which will help those ideas go from one place to another. And that is what being a great public speaker is. In an analogy of a car, you have ideas in place A and it needs to go to place B. A good public speaker will help develop a great car for you. And that's what I've been trying to build for so many years also.
Again, I'll ask a specific instance when public speaking really helped you break ice with a stranger.
I would definitely talk about one interesting story that I mean not as a public speaker, but just because I like to network and talk to people. So I was in train once. I was coming from I think Chennai to Bangalore, or Bangalore to Chennai, one of those places. And I was in a train compartment. I was alone, and there were two elderly ladies with me. They were in their late 80s, probably late 80s. and they were obviously had a lower berth. I was on a higher berth. And at 9:30, they came and they said we need to sleep 9 p.m. So they closed the lights. And as you want to do so many things, and they're like, "Arey, yaar, you can't do much about it. They're old ladies, so lights off." And come morning, I wake up. We had a station, I think, which was coming up at 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. or something on those lines. So we woke up at early at 7 a.m. I came down. I was sitting and I started having this conversation with these ladies. And I obviously thought that these are some old ladies who are just like, going to their son's house,
Yeah.
whatever, like daughter's house, as you would expect. And to my surprise, these two old ladies, they were sisters.
Right.
One of them was a very decorated neurosurgeon who was probably 88, and she was called to consult on a brain surgery of a 2-year-old. And it was one of the only surgeries, and she had the expertise. Obviously, she wasn't going to do the operation, but
Just
she was traveling for that reason. And his sister was like some sort of an educationist who has been recommended for Padma Shri, and she was getting some award. And I felt so small in that, in that moment, that you're so quick to pass judgment on people saying these are old, they're senile, they're blah blah blah. But these are the people who are actually and they're so humble, like So these are some great stories that come out because you talk to people, and that's where I'm coming from. So whenever you are traveling, my real thing is, while you see places and you do things, do talk to people, because cultural exchanges are something that you would do. And I think that stems from being a good public speaker, good communicator, so on and so forth.
100% agree with you. Whenever we have a conversation with a stranger, will give you lessons or something which you will cherish, which will make you humble, which makes you believe that life is good.
Absolutely.
Noticed you are very good at giving a balanced feedback. How do you manage that?
As a kid, I used to see a lot of matches at 1:30 and Brevon, right? So me and my father had this annual ritual that every summer we used to go and watch any match that's played at 1:30 or Brevon, and it might be a Ranji, it might be a like a B
And
League, C League
yes,
match. So I remember that one day I met Harsha Bogle, and he was there in the commentary box. He came down. I was sitting in the pavilion. We happened to meet, and my father has also, like been in the cricket circle very actively when as a kid, like as a growing up. So, and every time Harsha was telling a story about Sachin, like how even when he was already at his peak back then in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would say the mid 2000s, early 2000s. And every single time, whenever he used to meet someone like a Harsha Bogle, or like his even, so Harsha Bogle is not even like an full-fledged cricketer. He has played cricket, but he's a
yeah,
commentator, right? He's an expert. But even the peers that have not achieved as much as a success, like someone like an Amol Muzumdar, who has been an exceptional Ranji player, but
but never
hasn't.
got an
He
opportunity.
used to ask him like, how was my stroke, how was my feedback. So what I'm trying to drive is, even like a master blaster, like a legend like Sachin Tendulkar feels the need to ask about his stroke play to someone who has not probably been as good as him.
Yeah,
You might go. I mean, he can go to a Sunil Gavaskar every time and ask, right? But that's something that you would expect.
yeah,
That shows like how important feedback is for a lot of people. So when I give feedback in Toastmasters, or even in my office reviews, etc., with to my team, or to anyone like my sister or anyone like that, I try to see. I try to look at the whole system more objectively, because sometimes from where you stand, things look very differently. But when you look at the overall thing, it might look very differently. So whenever you're giving feedback, you start with one thing that you love the most about about their work, about their speech, about whatever you are talking to, whatever that intervention is about. Then you slip in a few, two, three things, but with clear CTA. You can't just criticize and leave. Like if you are criticizing, I think the most important thing is you also have to tell them how to do it right.
yeah,
Okay, I mean, I don't like your behavior, but what didn't you like in your behavior? I don't like the presentation that you made yesterday to XYZ client. What did you not like? Speech. So I think a clear a CTA or a call out is very important when, especially when you're giving a recommendation,
Yes.
and then commendation. And also, one very important thing in feedback is commend in front of everyone, recommend in front of no one. Like, when you're doing one on one, at least in office, I follow that if someone is to be commended, I do it in a forum which has max number of people. But whenever there is a recommendation to be passed, I try to do it one on one with the smallest group.
Okay. You talked about hope in one of your content basing Shawshank Redemption movie. Can you talk about hope a little bit?
There is this scene when, in Shawshank Redemption, the two main characters, Red and Andy, they are talking to each other. And Andy does say that, hope is probably one of the best things, and best things never die, and hope certainly never does. So, I feel that the one thing that you cling to the most, and which should be something that should be a constant companion in your journey called life, is hope, right? Because there are so many times that you will try your best, but sometimes your best is not enough, and that's where I think hope comes in. So I feel that someone should never lose hope, because hope is a place that will take you to places. Like, you look at histories, maybe like when Ferdinand Magellan set sail like, for to a distant land, or when probably Vasco da Gama set sail. I don't think they had everything that they wanted to reach their destination. But what they did have was hope, right? That they would one fine day find the promised land. They would find the land, or when Moses set across with the bunch of people. And I think hope is very, very critical. Right from prehistoric times till today, it's the most relevant thing. And I feel one should never give up on hope. So that's very important.
Great. Thank you for the insights. Now we would move on to the second segment, which is called as ONE1. It's a rapid fire segment, and I would just like to tell you why I named it as ONE1. Basically, every question of this rapid fire will have one word attached to it. And I brought this from the housey days when I used to say housey numbers in my area, and I would say a lot of numbers in a funny way. And one of that number was ONE1, single number one. So let's get started with the rapid fire. One lesson you learned from Sachin Tendulkar's life.
Humility. One key thing that why humility sets him apart is because two kids created history. Back in the days when they created a record partnership. Only one of them became like a legend. The other guy has been, he's off from the books of history. I feel Vinod Kamli, the other guy, was probably more talented than Sachin Tendulkar when they actually came together to play the gentleman's game. But it's only humility and the tireless hard work that Sachin had, that he put consistently for 22 decades, is what set him apart from all his peers.
Agreed. Since you travel a lot as well, is there one historic place in your wish list?
Absolutely. I think, I'm a huge history buff. Every time I travel, I try to soak in as much history as possible. So when I was in Japan, I tried to understand the samurai and the Ronin, and, the history of Japan. When I was in Croatia this year, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. So we did the whole Game of Thrones tour in Croatia and Slovenia. So the next trip that I really want to do is Rome, because I've been reading about Rome a lot. I want to see the Colosseum. I want to see different places where the Roman Empire actually came to life. So I think that's next on my bucket list. I would really want to travel to Rome and see places over there.
When are you booking tickets?
I hope very soon. Let's see, maybe early next year. That's the plan.
Okay. I asked this question to my previous three guests as well, and I would like to take your view as well. Is there anything different you could have done to achieve more success?
I don't think the answer is that simple. In fact, I truly feel that one should not look behind and cry over spilt milk or anything. So I don't feel I would have done anything differently per se. And success is relative, right? Success is almost like beauty lies in the eye of beholder. What is success to you might not be for me. What is for me might not be for someone else. So you're always in pursuit of happiness and pursuit of success, right? That's the success is, I think, the end game. It's the journey that matters. Now,
Yeah.
if you define that today I'm not successful, I should have done this thing differently, and you keep moving that goal, that goalpost every day, saying, "Yeah, I should have done this differently." I think then you're never happy. So I think whatever I did, whether they are mistakes, those mistakes were critical for the success that I have today, and those right things that I did were also probably critical. And I'm very, very content and happy with whatever I did. And I would probably do a few things differently here and there. But I mean, I'm not a guy who will look behind. Okay, I'll just tell you what Steve Jobs said in his book, right? He says that you can only connect the dots looking forward. You can't connect them looking behind. He did a calligraphy class when he was out of job, out of thing back then, and people ridiculed for him, but that actually were the fonts that came in the Macintosh computer when he built it. So maybe I did a thing today which I feel कि यार ये क्यों किया यार नहीं करता. But maybe 10 years down the line that thing might be useful. So I'm still connecting the dots. So I don't think I'll do anything differently. To redefine success. Berser.
Perfectly defended your journey, Ronak. Okay, follow-up question to this. Is there any person in your circle who has made it really big, and would you like to talk about that person?
So I think big, I don't think anyone has made big. So I'll tell you how I feel big is, right? Now, again, as I said, a lot of people define it by the position or the money that you make, saying, this person has arrived. And that's a societal matrix. Like, how many cars you own, what sort of a flat you have,
Hmm.
where you stay, how many bathrooms, how many bedrooms you have in your flat, etc., so on and so forth. I feel ki if someone is able to balance their life and have a great is in a great mental space, be it personally, professionally, and all of that, I think that person has made it, according to me. I mean, that is how I feel, and I try to look at what that person is doing differently so that I can make my life better. Because the only matrix that I feel one should actually aspire for, and I keep telling this to all my younger cousins, is that peace of mind is the only KPI that you should. If money gives you peace of mind, perfect. If stress-free job gives you peace of mind, perfect. If your health is 100% and that gives you peace of mind, perfect. Aspire for that. So peace of mind is the only KPI that you should strive towards. Like it. And I think all of us are, you, me, all of us are striving towards that in our own little manner, right? We are trying to take care of our parents. We are trying to sort that small issue in our house, and balancing it. That, according to me, is arriving. The person who balances it most beautifully and has the perfect peace of mind, for me, is a person who has arrived in life.
Now we would move on to the area, which is the area where nobody goes and talks about. So since you are into the sales, there must be some dark side which nobody talks about. Can you tell a little bit about the dark side?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In fact, sales is not for the faint-hearted, because I mean, the first is that it is extremely stressful, right? Sales comes with a target. You can't escape a target if you're in sales. And if you are, and it's constant stress, right? Because target is an expectation that is put on you, which you may or may not achieve. Now, in order to hit that target, as I said earlier, right, there are a lot of macro factors, etc., that are beyond your control. And again, a callback to what I said earlier, hope is a very big companion in your sales journey, because you hope that you're going to jump the hurdle of this all these factors and reach your destination. So I think stress is huge. So in I feel if you are going to get stressed easily, I would say sales is not for you. You need to have a coping mechanism through which you can balance stress and then move ahead. And second, I think sometimes your products are not going to deliver exactly what you have set out to do, right? And in case they are failing, as a sales guy, you're in this conundrum that do you protect revenue or do you protect your client, like in terms of that. And they often, you find it's a dichotomy, you find yourself in two different spots. So that's difficult. You need to you have to have a very high ethical compass to navigate through these dichotomy that you find yourself in, and that can be very, very stressful again. So I think these two are probably the dark side of sales.
Okay, okay, got it. Okay, one more question on the gray area side. Is there a part of history, if you be given a superpower, you would like to erase?
100%. I think historically there have been so many mistakes that have been made, so many mistakes that we even if I mean I would love that superpower to travel back in time and change stuff like there have been so many persecutions of so many religions over time. Especially I really feel for one race that was completely destroyed. So when um, the British found USA, like what is North America today. The Native Americans were staying over there, and they were completely vanquished. You don't see them at all, and this was an entire race that existed back then, but they were completely destroyed off. So I feel that if I am able to go back to the time of conquest, to the time of colonization, I would do something to protect the rights of the natives who are there, so that they also find their happiness or their position in the society as much as the oppressors or the guys who actually colonize. So that's something that I would definitely want to. If I have the superpower, I'll go and same in India, right? When the British came, they took over all our wealth, they took away everything from us, and left us a poorer country. We could have been like the biggest country if things would have happened differently. So the Bengal famine really took a lot from us. A lot of religious persecutions happened in India. I feel that if that could be avoided, we would be a far better, greater country than what we are today.
Agreed, Ronak. Just one last question. What is your advice for people who want to become better communicator, better speaker, better presenter?
Yeah. So I think, Tabrez, thank you so much for asking this. I would just like to tell everyone that consume content as much as possible. 5 years back, I used to say read. I know that reading has become very difficult in today's world because, the advent of OTT content and so many things. So
Yeah.
just consume content because I feel that if you don't read, if you don't watch something, if you don't understand other people's thoughts and opinions, you won't be able to form yours, right? So, in order to enrich your library, I think you need to borrow a lot from every place else. So I think read a lot, travel. I think that is very, very important because, and I always say travel is never an expense, it's an investment. So, if you travel to various places, you talk to people, you see things, you learn about cultures, it will give you so many ideas that it will turn you into it's a transformational experience. I know it's cliched, but it is, and I truly believe so. So you read, you travel, and you network. I think if you are able to do these three things, you can be a better speaker, you can be a better your thoughts can be more put out in a more structured manner. I think that can be lead you to be a good person overall.
Yes. Ronak, since we have still have couple of minutes before the stipulated time, I'll just like to add another follow-up question. I want your views on that. What do you feel about the basic English and the advanced English? I'm telling you the context, what I'm trying to say. Suppose if I can say something in basic English, is there a need to add the vocabulary words or the Shashi Tharoor kind of words to the message which we are putting?
So I think it's like eating a khichdi and a biryani, right? Or a pulao and a biryani. You can
Acha.
be happy eating a pulao, but you actually would love to eat a biryani. A good English, a good vocabulary, or good grammar is like adding that garnishing onto a regular dish to make it superlative dish. That's the whole thing. You can convey your thoughts and your communication even in basic English. The need for a superlative English is not at all there. But if you need that wow effect, it just makes you feel good about yourself, right? It's like wearing a t-shirt. You can wear any t-shirt from any brand that you want. But why do you wear branded clothes? Because you want to feel good about yourself. You
Yeah.
want everyone else to feel good that you're wearing that particular t-shirt with that particular logo. That's why people wear brands. That's where brands have so much value. A good English will make you into that brand that you want to be.
Acha.
Because today all of us are commodities. We are all born as commodities, right? Like how do you make yourself a brand? In order to make yourself a brand, you need to add that layer, and that superlative English will help you make from a commodity to a brand, like, slowly and steadily. So it's not the only thing, but it is definitely one of the components that will definitely put you up there.
Superbly answered, Ronak. We are at the end of the conversation, and it is imperative. I thank you for the this conversation and the insight you gave to my talk show. I will be never be able to forget this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tabres. It was lovely to be here, and thank you so much for doing this. And you're doing a great job to this show, just bringing alive a lot of ideas that people have. And I hope that you continue to do this for a very long time. It's a huge success. Thank you, Tabres.
Thank you. Thank you.